Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassan Sabbath Fellowship. As always, the building is locked due to fear, and that's going to be what the video is about today. We do the philosophy of eschatology, our knowledge, our reality, your existence, what's going on, and why are things changing right now? Why are the attitudes of people changing? We try not to be disparate. We try to harmonize with the Bible and what's going on in your world and try to give you something that's edifying. Not always, though. We're Beth Hassan Sabbath Fellowship. So there's a lot of smug people out there that think everything is figured out. They're smug as a bug in a rug. They believe that imminency works, that means the rapture is going to happen real quick. They notice the tyranny of the government. I call it Fearanny. And they're really quite confident that they have all the details worked out going forward, and regardless of the eschatologies. So I'm already off on this. So I have to apologize. I'm 2 days off with the standard Jewish Orthodox calendar, okay? Because of Sabbath concerns, trying to get the festivals to not overlap. The Orthodox calculated calendar is technically 2 days early with the cited new moon. And so you'll see my dates are 2 days forward on that. So 2 days later than the standard start of Rosh Hashanah, 2 days later, which would be actually the true Yom Kippur based on the sighted moon, which is what we're supposed to do. And then now we're starting Sukkot tonight. So this is Wednesday afternoon, and you can see the dates off to the right-hand side. So Yom Teruah was the 8th, started. Yom Kippur was the 17th of sunset there, the 22nd, which is tonight, and going through the rest of the time. So you can tell when I'm recording. And so we're supposed to wait until the first of the month, the Rosh Chodesh. It's to be a day of complete rest for remembering the Holy Convocation and the blast of the shofar to start out with Yom Teruah, which is a war call. So we're 2 days off. Sorry. Um, what's going on right now? So everybody has an eschatology. Whether you're Catholic and you have millennial beliefs, Lutheran, you have millennial, but then you add in that the Pope is the Antichrist. Let's say you're a Baptist or a Presbyterian, or not a Presbyterian, but let's say you're more of a Pentecostal. You would generally be a rapture believer, and you believe you're ready to be raptured right now, and your stress levels are going up, and maybe your common sense levels are going down. Well, I can tell you across the world, common sense is dropping, and stress is going up. So you're going to see more fights because everybody has an eschatology. Those out there that don't believe in God believe more of a dirt nap. They just lay in the ground and the ants play pina colada on your snout. Well, I happen to believe something different, and so I'm not very popular, but I'm going to stick with my beliefs, which haven't been proven wrong yet. And I'm hoping that I can de-stress you with this, but maybe not, maybe not. And I'm hoping that I'm using common sense. So some people are selling fear right now, surge upon surge, very, very difficult months ahead. Resurgence could occur. You can tell based on the picture there that I put in the middle, upper middle, how I feel about this particular man. And what I'm noticing is that fear drives profitability, and so that the vaccine manufacturers are making a killing off this, and there are people that are invested in that and make more money as a result of that, and they drive fear. And fear with the markets causes things to go up and down. So China just about defaulted on one of their largest property and land management companies, and it causes fear, and that drove down the stock market yesterday, but it's back up again today. Well, fear is not how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to block what I've coined as fearanny. So that's fear and tyranny together, because that's what they're pushing on us right now. And we're supposed to block out this smugness. The Bible does not like smugness. Now, it's been always a problem with the liberals, and I've been talking to some brilliant people recently about this, and they said, yeah, you're right. Liberals tend to put bumper stickers all over their cars and have opinions about this, that, and the other thing. And conservatives, not so much. They're more controlled in what they happen to say, and so there's this smug issue going on right now, and you'll see it in the slides that I'm going to show you. Uh, Smugness is anti-Yeshua, anti-Christ, we could call it. So we don't want to be smug, but we also want to work out our faith. We want to figure out what's going on in the world. So it's tough. Now, what is prompting this kind of a video? Because this is happening left and right. This is Nathan Leal, and he is a believer, and he believes himself to be an end times teacher, and that he's the expert. And if anybody disagrees with him, they have a hooligan spirit, like he accused me of. You can see down on the bottom. I exposed you as a liar. I'm not pre-trib. You need to either, and that's actually what he wrote, you need to either get a refill on your meds or call a preacher to yank that hooligan spirit out of you. So why did I attack him? Well, because he said the tribulation has begun. It has not, people. Okay? Sorry, it has not. That's his eschatology, and he's wrong. The mark of the beast is upon us. He's wrong again. I went out shopping yesterday, and I did just fine. I was able to get everything that I wanted with no problems. In fact, there were no lines, and all the stores were stocked to the brim. So, I think he's wrong. So I said, you're wrong. Poor etymology on the word toxin. So he said that the mark of the beast is a toxon, and that is the bow. That's the Greek word for bow that's used in, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on it. Revelation 6:2. The first horseman comes with a toxon, a bow, but he has no arrows. So anyway, he said, I said, these are the birth pangs, fear porn. That's what he's using. You know, we're approaching the fourth seal. Just prior to the final 7 years, you should be preaching about death, massive deaths. But no, he's not. And so the point for me is, I'm arguing that he's using fear porn. I'm just stating that's what it says in the Bible. And if we're actually moving into the fourth seal, which I haven't been proven right or wrong yet, but certain things have occurred in the world where you could prove seal 1, seal 2, seal 3. I have very few people that agree with me. Very, very few. Trust me. But then again, most people have a different eschatology from somebody else anyway. So the main thing is, I'm saying the tribulation has not begun, but there are many people out there. There are fights everywhere in Facebook land between Christians right now because they believe the tribulation has begun and that the mark of the beast is upon us. And it's not, guys, okay? And this Nathan Leal is the breaking of the seals has begun. Well, says him. Okay, no evidence really, just that's his opinions. Okay, so he's smug, I believe. Here's another one. Now, I can't even pronounce her name. It's Nene Lamato Leas. And she's saying, well, I am that woman, first of all, with Adam. She's basically saying she's Eve. Okay, so she's a false prophet already. And she's saying because she heard Pope John Paul give a message for the signing of the covenant in the UN, that means we're in the Great Tribulation right now. And it's just kicked off a firestorm of fights. Now, I'm going to show you eventually here that her words formed a new friendship with me against a guy that was my enemy at first, and then I realized, oh, you're not my enemy. We just argue different things. He's saying that we're in, and I'll give you his evidence. But he's a great friend now. He's a Messianic like I am, Sabbath keeper, festivals, and a great, wonderful human being named Bert. So the main thing is, let's see, I just inform you to be prepared all day long. You cannot understand well about what really written in the Bible unless you guided by Holy Spirit. Cyrus Jesiluga, the mother of heaven and earth, is no other than it's Eva as Maria, the mother of us all. Okay, this is what's going to start happening. More and more and more of this as they drive up the fear and the common sense drops. So just get used to it, okay? So you can see this was the Revelation site. Nice site. I mean, if you don't mind fights every now and then. But it's a good site on Facebook, and I'm on there, and some other good people are on there. But it's a chance to meet some fun people. Okay, so I'm arguing against going into the tribulation right now. We're just moving along into the fourth seal. I don't know how long it takes for the seals to open. You know, God never told me. I'm just saying they're birth pangs. We're going to have a birth here at some point in time. And I'm trying not to sell fear porn. I'm trying to get you accustomed to this so that when the deaths occur, you'll say, okay, that's part of prophecy, and there is a reason. And also, it's man causing the deaths. It's not God causing this. This is mankind saying, I'm going to play God. I'm going to play around with Genesis 1:27, which is the image of God, and change the image of God within you, and that will cause death. Okay? Now, that is different than saying that's God's fault. And it's not. And you can't blame God for anything. You can blame mankind for playing God, and that's where I'm going with this. Part of the fourth seal. And I'm starting to see all the pieces come together now, and so I guess I'm not sleeping very well at night. Part of the reason is because I realize all these people are going to die. And also, of my 40 closest friends right now, 4 are either dead or dying. Okay, all 4 have had blood clots and other issues, and 1 has died officially, but the other 3 are not looking good. And so, that's about 10% of my friends or family. And so, yeah, that's rather personal. So just keep that in mind. So we're in the birth pangs. We're moving along. We're going to go into tribulation. Then we'll go into great tribulation. We're not there yet, people. You'll see other signs moving along. And so just be patient. Let God do what he's going to do. And just be aware that it seems like, well, you'll notice the food prices go through the roof. That's inflation. That's literally in the text of Seal 3 in Revelation 6. 6, okay, and the second seal seems to make sense, and the first seal makes sense, and we'll explain them more later on. But the fourth seal seems to be the next one coming up, and you'll be amazed that man is going to cause that to occur. So we're just moving along, but do not be easily shaken in your thinking or be anxious. Okay, so once again, we're dealing with smug this time, and all of the various eschatologies, and we're trying to reconcile it, the Bible versus prophecy versus news. And so, according to David Stern, and this is his commentary on 1 Thessalonians 2, but in connection with the coming of our Lord Yeshua the Messiah and our gathering together to meet him, we ask you, brothers, not to be easily shaken in your thinking or anxious because of a spirit or a spoken message. Like I mentioned with Nathan Leal, he believes that he gets messages directly from God, and he believes those messages are always accurate, and he doesn't have another person to reconcile it off. It's just Nathan going off, okay? And so when somebody gets that kind of a message, which spirit is he getting it from? Is it from God or the spirit of fear? And if you watch that video that I showed you of him, Nathan Leal, and so that's it. I'm blanking on the name of his organization again. But anyway, you can look up Nathan Leal and find him that way. The main thing is you can smell the fear in the recording of what he's doing. And you can sense with me, it's like we're just plodding along, people. We're waiting for God to make the next move. So some of these people are supposedly from us, claiming that the day of the Lord has already come. Okay, and you could say the day of the Lord is definitely the last day, but really it is that 7 years, and we're not in it, people. And so don't let anyone deceive you, like a Nathan Leal or this other lady, in any way, for the day will not come until after the apostasy has come, and that is apostasia. So if people look at you and say, well, that means rapture, no, it really doesn't, and that's poor hermeneutics. It just is, okay? The apostasy is the apostasy from the faith, and we're starting to see some of that as people get, I don't know, driven by fear. Fearanny, and the man who separates himself from the Torah has been revealed, the one destined for doom. Okay, so that's called the Antichrist. So this is Stern's commentary on that, and those were his notes before. Misinformation can come from a spirit other than the Holy Spirit. That's the problem right now. The Bible warns us that this will occur, and so you can see, and he lists of all the best ones. 1 Kings 22:22, where a spirit comes before God and says, and God first says, who will be a lion in the mouth, a lion spirit in the mouths of the prophets? And one of the guys comes forward and says, I'll be a lion spirit in the mouths of the prophets. Ahab, King Ahab. He will surely go out to war and die. And the spirit succeeds. Well, Ahab deserved it. Come on. Ahab and Jezebel? Absolutely. So God didn't tempt them. They were already tempted. He just helped them. So 1 John 4:1, spirit of the Antichrist there, and then 1 Thessalonians 5:19 through 22 talks about not being afraid of the messages right now because the lying spirits are out there, okay? A spoken message that is a sermon or teaching or a letter supposedly from us, but actually a forgery, okay? It happens all the time. So is Paul authenticating this message or is it just a message, okay? Alternatively, if the last phrase translated is a letter from us supposedly claiming, then Shaul is referring to a genuine letter of his, perhaps 1 Thessalonians. He's citing the concerns that they're having with the first letter in his second letter. In our case, we believe that the first letter of Corinthians was lost, and we're only reading the second and the third letter of Corinthians. So, which was being misinterpreted to imply that the day of the Lord has already come. While a similar error is reported at 2 Timothy 2:14 through 18, it is hard to see how Paul's message of 1 Thessalonians 1, 10, 3, and 13, especially for, anyway, 1 Thessalonians, could be misunderstood in this way. In any case, don't let anyone deceive you. Okay, so please don't. And that includes me, in case I'm wrong. And I've already showed you that I thought Nathan Leal was pre-trib and he's post-trib. That's fine. I mean, I really didn't check into him much before this. I've noticed the stuff out there, but it's like now he's really become the figurehead of we're in the Great Tribulation and the mark of the beast is here. Well, he's wrong. He's definitely wrong because 99.9% of the people in America today can go out and buy stuff at the store today. So obviously he's lying. And he calls me a liar. That's fine. He will oppose himself to everything that people call a god. This is text again, back to 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. He will oppose himself to everything that people call a god, or make himself an object of worship, or make an object of worship. He will put himself above them all, so that he will sit in the temple. Doesn't say temple there, people. It says naos. That is the Holy of Holies. The temple would be Heron. It says naos. And so it's a mistranslation by even Stern, and I love Stern, of God, and proclaim that he himself is God. Okay, so I thought I'd quote to you Ezekiel 28:2 just because it's so interesting. So that's just below this. So we're going to drift away from Stern for a second. The word of Adonai came to me, human being, tell the prince of Zoar, which is, that island nation, just kind of the northwest area of Israel, which is Lebanon area, and it's really not. This is not a letter to the prince of Zoar. And Adonai, Elohim, God, says, because you are so proud, smug, and have said, I am a god. I sit on the throne of God, surrounded by the sea, yet you are a man, not God. Even though you think that you think like God, you were a cherub, the protecting angel, cherub. That's the close angels to God. He protected a large region. I placed you on God's holy mountain. You walked back and forth among the stones of fire. Yeah, that's talking about Satan. Yeah, it is. And so smugness, because of his pride. He was so proud, and he said that. Okay, so now back into Stern's commentary. The man who separates himself from Torah will sit in the naos of God, the Holy of Holies. Doesn't mean a building. It just means something that's the Holy of Holies. And it compares to Matthew 24:15, which is naos again there too. Although there are those who consider the temple naos, spoken of here, to be metamorphical individual believers, say, or the Messianic community or whatever else. That seems unlikely for this tome. After all, Paul wrote when the second temple was still standing. Yep. So he was writing in maybe 56 AD, and nothing in the passage suggests that his intent was other than to be taken literally. For this prophecy to be fulfilled, then, there has to be a temple, a naos, but there hasn't been one since Titus destroyed the second temple in 70 AC Common Era. So what I'm getting at is that we have a situation of what's it going to be in the end times. I'm arguing it's just going to be a naos, which means some kind of a holy spot with maybe a tent covering over the top, not a building. And we can kind of go through that more in another video. But the main thing is you're going to see certain things occur, and we're not there yet. We're just not. So, David Stern, a little bit more. I receive about 20 or 30 letters a year, mainly from fundamentalist Christians of various churches, urging us to build the temple, in Jerusalem, because they regard it as a prerequisite for the return of Christ. At press conferences, I am often asked whether we plan to rebuild the temple. I usually reply that according to Jewish tradition, the temple already exists, and it will come down from heaven to its proper place when the Messiah comes. And that's a chance everyone has to take. So this is from Teddy Kollek, the former mayor of Jerusalem. And so it's just interesting that he's constantly getting these questions. And if you're a good Orthodox Jew, you believe the temple is built and ready to come down. There is no man-built temple in the end of days. And based on the word naos and other words, hekal in Isaiah 66:6, Malachi 3:1, and verses 12 to 15 of Zechariah 6, it says hekal, people. It could say bait, which would be the temple, but it isn't. So just keep this in mind. So Stern continues and finishes. The third temple is the one which the man who separates himself from, and that third temple then is the naos, is the one which the man who separates himself from Torah will sit in. but it will probably last only a short period of time before it is destroyed. After that, the Messiah himself may build a fourth temple according to the pattern, and I disagree with Stern. At that point in time, there is no fourth temple. My city's distinguished mayor is partly right. Something will come down from heaven, but not the temple, but the new Jerusalem, which is Revelation 21:2, and will have no temple building, since the temple will be God himself, Revelation 21:22. So that's what we should expect. So now we're going to get back into what's going on in the world and why everything's ramped up. Now, last year, I was listening to two guys hoping that they would be right. Dana Coverstone, nice fellow. I mean, I'm sorry that I have to give you this picture where he's got the funny nose and hat, but he hasn't been very accurate, people. And then Edward Umling, because he had such strong messages. And so Dana was wrong last year. Now, we're coming back into another October. We'll see if he's right this year. He is a good, godly man. It's just that he's been very, very wrong. So, and Edward Umling is just absolutely, I don't trust him at all now. It just helps me to realize that I've been conned a few times over the years, so I'm a little bit more leery right now of all these people jacking me up to say, fear, 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 fearanny, you know? And no, we're done with the Christians for a moment here. We'll jump back to them in a little while. We're going into the pagans now. Okay, so they get it. They're planning for something to fall apart. So the Silicon Valley wealthy have become super doomsday preppers by buying remote New Zealand properties, getting eye surgeries, and stockpiling ammo and food. So they're planning to spend doomsday in New Zealand. Okay, so LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman said all these wealthy billionaires are planning a hideaway spot someplace in the U.S. or someplace in the world. New Zealand is relatively cheap, it's safer, and that's where a lot of people are going right now. Especially since March of 2020, they have been spending billions to run and hide. And we'll talk about the verses in a moment here. One of them, happens to be, oh, I'm blanking on his name right now. Rats. Oh, well, anyway, even the Trump supporters are doing this. And so they're citing President Joe Biden's administration as the reason for wanting to prepare for disaster. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So they're planning to jet out to go someplace, and they're planning on New Zealand, and they believe that their wealth is a target. So that's why they want to go to a place where they would be safer. So what I'm telling you is that the Bible warns us in Luke 21:26 that as people faint with fear at the prospect of what is overtaking the world, for the powers of heaven will be shaken, and the earth too, for that matter. So here it is. Peter Thiel, he's the guy that's running out there. He has not built his property yet, but he has bought in New Zealand. Google billionaire Larry Page is buying in New Zealand and building. And so they're all planning when the blank hits the fan that they want to be in New Zealand because it should be safer. James Cameron is planning on New Zealand. Julian Robertson is planning on that. He's a millionaire hotelier. And so they've got helicopter landing spots. They've got everything ready to go so they can sprint very, very quickly. And this is from Elon Musk, and this shows that he's got a launch site to go up if he needs to in West Texas, but then he's also got an underground place because he's the type of guy always digging underneath the ground. And so Elon Musk runs his own boring company, and he's been boring around Vegas, with all these tunnels and Los Angeles. And so the rich are prepping to fly up or bore down quickly when disaster will hit. So they're planning, depending upon what is coming at them. If it's something coming from up above, like meteorites or things like that, they'll go under the ground. If it's something on the earth like a nuke, they'll just go up and spend time up there until they can come back down again later on. So they're smug, and they think they have it all answered. But the problem is God has a better answer for them. So obviously space flight with SpaceX from Musk and other people have gone up to space lately. Even Zoe Deschanel, how does she have this kind of money? She's prepared for a disaster coming. Okay, they're smug. Billionaire bunker owners are preparing for the ultimate underground escape. And it's everywhere. Forbes has reported on this. Here's some of the people that are planning to leave. Post Malone, I don't know anything about him. Lady Gaga, I don't know much about her. Let's see, what's George's name? George, I'm sorry, I can't remember his lovely wife. I don't even care anymore. So Reddit CEO Steve Huffman told New Yorker in 2017 that they bought motorcycles, guns, and ammo for a San Francisco home in the event of a disaster. So they're all going to go someplace. Billionaires are worried about a collapse because they are causing it. It's part of their planned takeover. Get a clue. I agree. They're causing this. George Clooney, that's it. So George Clooney and them all, and Kim Kardashian, and they're all planning their bunkers. Well, LA is not happy because Kim Kardashian is building a vault at their LA home, and she's quite smug, obviously, and she's, I don't know, she's brilliant enough to become a billionaire, but wow, what a pathetic human being. So obviously they're planning to go down, and so what does the Bible say about this? Then the earth's kings, the rulers, the generals, the rich, and the mighty, indeed everyone, slave and free, hid himself in caves and among the rocks in the mountains. Okay, and that's what Kim is planning to do. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us. And that's from Hosea 10:8 also. From the face of the one sitting on the throne, and from the fury of the Lamb, for the great day of their fury has come, and who can stand? So the point is, when you go underground, the rocks are going to fall on you, and it'll just be a nice, pretty rock burial. You won't come back out again. So a little bit more from Stern, just so I can show you what's going on in chapter 6 and then in 8:1. 6 of the 7 seals are broken in this chapter. The scroll itself is open with the 7th seal broken at 8:1. And the description of the breaking of the 6th seal alludes to the descriptions of the end of the world found in all of these passages. Okay? And so it's real standard, and it's real standard in terms of the lingo. The fury of the Lamb is fearful because the Lamb is also a lion. It's the day of the Lord. It's the day of the Lord Yeshua, the Messiah, the day of the Lord Yeshua, the day of the Messiah, the great day of Adonai Tezvaot, the great day of anger, the day of judgment. It has typical names. Bayom Hahu is another circumlocution that matches up with that there are many out there. The day could be that case too. So just be aware that all of this is pretty standard talk, and that we're just walking our way through it in chapter 6. And so I'm trying not to fearmonger you. I'm trying to get you ready and prepared for what seems to be inevitable. And I'm sorry, the next step seems to be seal 4, which would be a horrific amount of deaths. That's part of the reason why I'm not sleeping so well. So a lot of people have kind of picked out their eschatology, and this guy says it's 7 years now, and that will lead up to May 26th of 2021, and then we go forward, and that's the next 7 years. And I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty picture, but I don't know if it's going to happen that way. I've seen these charts and graphs for years now, and none of them have been accurate. And so he did mark off the 2017 and the 2024, and so it's very interesting how he laid this out. I think it's meaningless. Okay, so getting back to this comment that I had from Revelation, where this one lady was saying, I am Eve from the Bible, and she was trying to falsely prophesy. I bumped into this other guy, Bert McIntosh. Love the guy, and I got into a fight with him at first. So my point to you is, as the fears intensify and the common sense seems to drop, there are going to be some good people out there. So try not to get into fights with them, but try to find them. I'm so happy that I found him. He's sitting in Nebraska, and he's like a great person. So I said to him, you're selling Fearanny. And then he finally came back and said why he thinks the Great Tribulation started in 2019. And I love the way he researched this. He cited Suleiman the Magnificent, who I've researched extensively, and the time frame. He's saying it started in 1535. And I said, well, what happened? He said the decree. And he cited Daniel 9:24 through 27. And he said that means we're 2.5 years into the last 7 years, unless, of course, you're referring to the last 3.5 years. Then we're correct. Then we're about a year away. Okay, now I disagree with him, but I love him because he did some research. And so another lady, Betty, jumped on and said, how did you come up with that? And, not what the Bible tells us. Do you have the 666? You see, that's a typical fight. If you disagree with somebody, they have a 666 mark on their forehead. So Bert said, it's history. When the commandment decree was given to rebuild Jerusalem, the year after he defeated the last vestige of the Eastern Roman Empire in 1534, the ruler was compelled to build by a recurring dream of a lion trying to catch him and devour him when he cried out, "What must I do to escape this lion?" He was told to rebuild Jerusalem and also Mecca and Medina, send money down. And there was one more story, but the bottom line is the ruler, with the same authority as Cyrus and Darius, gave the commandment that restarted Daniel's prophecy. I'm so glad that I found this guy. Well, we've been talking on the phone. We're like best friends now. He's got his timeline here. The bottom line is he's saying 1535 is the big year. Now, I argue instead it's when they actually sealed the Eastern Gate, and I argue that's 1540. That kicked it off. But you know what? I'm still not dogmatic on this. I like the fact that he did the research. So once again, you're going to notice more fights on the internet now. Okay, just a lot more. But there's some good people out there. So try to hear them out first before you throw the invectives out. And I kind of apologize. Now, this is different. So once again, I love Bert, and I'm glad that I found him. This is from an email to a group, and they said the signs of 666 are all over everything over, the CV19. And they said the patent number is 060606, and the Pfizer customer service is area code 666, and graphene oxide has the molecular structure of 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neurons, which is 666, and it magnetizes, and it's all Fearanny, and it's really junk science. And they said, oh, we might not have enough time left until the 120th Jubilee. So if you want to pause any of this and read this, I'm just telling you, there's a whole lot of disinformation being sent out, and the Bible told us about that. So this is disinformation too. So this is a nice, sweet guy, but he's on the internet, so it's public. Is COVID vaccine the mark of the beast? And he's saying, no, definitely no, but I'm telling you, he's smug. And so really, he's saying, I answered no and thought a little bit more about it. So then he came back and said, let's look at Revelation 13, which I appreciate that he did. It's just that he came away with the worst possible answers. So he's saying it's not, because we're still buying and selling. And so he's basically saying there's no indication that the V matches the mark described by the Apostle John. You need to present your V card to purchase goods or whatever else. He's not seeing that. Not yet, definitely. So anyway, the point is, if you want to stop and pause and read the whole thing, I'm getting to the fact that he's saying, no, this is not it. But he's very smug about it, because he's saying, go do this. Okay, maybe it's back here. No, it is probably in here. Anyway, he's saying you need to go do this, based on his understanding of what's going on. Here it is in the green. Take the V. He's absolutely telling people to do that. And I'm saying that's not exactly it's up to each person to determine based on the available facts that they have. And so he's smug. And so be very, very careful as we head into these times, as false prophets come out. This is a false teacher here. He's not telling you to think about it really. Yeah, he kind of is, but he's really saying take the jab. So, and I'm sure his congregation is not pleased with him, but we'll see how that works out. So, smug. This is from, it's been so many years since Harold Camping came into our world and said, May 21st, 2011, we're going to have the rapture. So keep in mind, this is going to start happening more and more and more. And you're going to have it from the left and the right. So this is the right, obviously, Harold Camping, okay, from conservatives. But they're going to force you into believing there's going to be a rapture date coming up, or that we're in the Great Tribulation right now. On the other hand, Alex Jones, I've never defended Alex Jones in all these years. I rarely have listened to him. I'm starting to listen to him because he's prescient sometimes. So Biden just declared himself as medical dictator over America and no states' rights. Total power over all private businesses, just like the CDC claiming authority over landlords. This is a global corporate takeover of America. So it's just interesting that he's been accurate lately. So I'm actually listening to him. Now, this is interesting because this is another Facebook fight. It wasn't really much of a fight. It was more of a discussion. But I didn't agree with the guy, but we were both polite. So this is where he's on the site for David Reagan, Christ and Prophecy, and citing Jan Markell and how she's moving her conference to from Minneapolis this fall to Jack Hibbs' congregation in Chino Hills, California. And I'm saying that Chino Hills is just as dangerous as Minneapolis because Jan's conference was way out in Eden Prairie, and I used to go to it years ago. I got sick and tired of it because, as I've mentioned before, oh, what's his face? The guy that wrote the Left Behind series. You know who he is. Jerry B. Jenkins said when he was asked, "Can anybody be saved after the rapture?" And he said, "No." And he was booed. And so at that point in time, I said, "Oh, this is stupid. I can't go to these conferences and listen to stupid people." And Jerry Jenkins is a fiction writer. So I stopped at that point in time. So this guy, nice guy, John P., I won't give his last name, he believes in systematic theology, biblical theology, proper exegesis, proper hermeneutics. And his comment to me was, after Jan saying, "I'm going to move to Chino Hills, we all need to use discernment and whom we listen to. I suggest Jan Markell and Pastor Jack Hibbs are bona fide." Yes. And he said, "Listen to what they say." And whoa, that was smug. So let's check out Jack Hibbs. Now, I try hard not to listen to Jack because he just wears me out with stupidity. But here's what Hibbs said years ago. He said, this is actually the video. You can watch this on this site, Beware of False Unbiblical Teachers.blogspot. So anyway, the video's on there. You can listen to it. It's frightening. He says, you have the right, once you've been saved, because if once saved, always saved, you can go kill all your coworkers and still go to heaven as a born-again believer. Yeah, he said it. I mean, the video's there. It's a younger Jack Hibbs. It doesn't matter. He still believes this. This is gibberish, people. Okay? So this is what's going to happen as we move forward here. That whatever you do, anything you want to do, whatever sin you like to do, you don't need to repent, nothing like that. You were saved at one point in time, and so now you can go out and kill all your co-workers. This is crazy talk. And he's one of these top pastors. There's Jack with Jan again, invited, you can see all the things that he's attending. He's considered one of the top guys in the world today, and he's a bozo. That's ridiculous. Okay, you can't tell people that you get to go to heaven after you kill all your coworkers. That's stupid. And so now you know why I never listened to him. He's a creep. So the bottom line is, this guy is telling me that I need to listen to Jan Markell, and Jan has resigned many aspects of the ministry years ago. I remember back in 2017, she came out and said, "I think the signs of the fourth seal are here." She was immediately shut down, and somebody else came on and answered and said, "No, we're not in the fourth seal. We have no signs whatsoever. Imminency. So she's not that involved, and she's getting tired, and it's time to move the conference on to some other places. She's ready to retire. But Jack Hibbs, of all the people, saying you can go murder your coworkers and still go to heaven? I mean, come on. So that's what's going to start happening. You're going to notice more of this crazy talk, smug, crazy talk. And if you want to, you can go to this site, Beware of False Unbiblical Teachers.blogspot, and check out Jack Hibbs from Calvary Chapel. And yeah, I'm not pleased with anybody from Calvary Chapel. I have one friend that I love dearly that resigned from Calvary Chapel, and that took courage, so I'm very proud of him. And many of you might know who that guy is. So anyway, these issues are going to start popping up more and more and more, and you're just going to notice them. The doctrine of imminence, which means that Jesus can return at any point in time with no signs. Well, the signs are there, people, so that's not the case. And dispensationalism is a fat lie, okay? And Chuck Missler told us all these things for years. Chuck was wrong all the way through. So I don't know what you do with the fact that Chuck was a good scientist, but his rapture technology or theology was wrong. Okay, so just deal with that, and deal with the fact that Got Questions is wrong in most cases too. Very smug, very, very smug, because they're going to defend the rapture and imminency even after the signs prove that they're wrong. They're going to be forcing it down your throats. Okay, and Harold Campion is going to be date setting, and other people like that. The Bible says nothing about date setting, but it's going to happen. You're going to see more of it. These are the people I want you to trust in. Dimitri Duduman, who is deceased now, and his grandson, Michael Bodea. His comment is, you may die, but you'll die an obedient serf. And so if you take on either the mark of the beast, or you take on whatever the government tells you to do, you will die too. You'll die either way, but you'll be an obedient servant if you take this mark, or take whatever abuse you get from the government. And he lived under communism. He did. And he was able to escape back in the 80s. So just keep that in mind. I trust Michael Baldea. He's not a Messianic or a Sabbath keeper, but, he preaches a good gospel message. So I love him dearly. So the point of the conversation is there are people to listen to. I hope you'll continue listening to me. I believe it's linear. We're just moving through, people. Don't get hyped up. Don't believe all the stupid hype. We're not in. We're waiting. We're going through the seals. It's linear. There's no doctrine of imminence. There's no dispensations. There's none of that stuff. And you need to observe and verify what's happening right now. Match it up with the Bible. We're in the birth pangs. Those are the birth pangs of Matthew 24, which look just like the seals. We're in seal 3. You can see it with food prices. And seal 4 is coming up pretty soon here. It's going to be a lot of death. Seal 5 is worse. We have the enemies list, and they are coming, okay? And it's going to be bad. Then we have our friends list. 144,000, the 2 witnesses, the Hagios, the holy ones, the saints, the Bible calls them too. And then there's going to be in-between ones. So keep in mind, we're in the festival time frame right now. We've already blown the 99 teruahs on Yom Teruah and the 1 shofar HaGadolah, the great shofar at the end of Yom Kippur. Now we're going into Sukkot. And what you're trying to strive for right now is Revelation 14, 9 through 12, which is another angel, the third one, followed them and said in a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives the mark on his forehead or on his hand, he will indeed drink the wine of God's fury. That's where you deserve the fury for taking those marks, poured undiluted into the cup of his rage. He will be tormented by fire and sulfur before the holy angels and before the Lamb, and the smoke from their tormenting goes up forever and ever. They have no rest, day or night. Those who worship the beast and its image, and those who receive the mark of its name. This is when perseverance is needed on the part of God's people, those who observe his commands and exercise God's faithfulness. So God's people, there are the saints of the Hagion. I thought it was Hagios, but it's Hagion. Anyway, the saints. So be a saint and be holy and get white garments and keep them white. It's a wedding coming up. So that's the end. God bless. Be careful. These are tough days. So try not to believe the hype. Just settle down and realize we're going through the seals. It's just another step. It's another step. I don't think we're up to the mark of the beast, and I don't think we're in the Great Tribulation. And if it ever changes, I'll tell you. I'll be one of the first people to say, okay, and here's why, and I'll give you some good, solid evidence for it. So be blessed. Have a great Sukkot. Amen.